something about how song lyrics always sound really, really weird if you read them out loud with no music? We've known each other for so long. Your heart's been aching, but you're too shy to say it. Inside, we both know what's been going on. We know the game, and we're gonna play it. And if you ask me how I'm feeling, don't tell me you're too blind to see. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna turn around and desert you. Good morning, internet! My name is Ash, and Rick Astley humor aside for once, I've noticed that a lot of song lyrics, especially modern day pop lyrics, not to be that guy or anything, always sound just a little bit dull if you read them out loud with no music. When I woke up, I was all alone, with a broken heart and a ticket home, and I asked you, friend, what would you do if her hair was black and her eyes were blue? See, I've traveled all around, I've been all over the world. Boy, I ain't never seen nothing like a Galloway girl. I got my driver's license last week, just like we always talked about, cause you were so excited for me to finally drive up to your house, but today I drove through the suburbs, crying cause you weren't around. It sounds so fucking stupid! And people wonder why I never listen to music with lyrics in it. Oh my god, actually, you should listen to BTS. They're basically like modern Mozart anyway. What about all the Minecraft parodies? Didn't you say you know all the lyrics to Blitz and Revenge? I'm pretty sure I didn't say that. Liar, come on, you just don't want to be associated with the Dream stan base. Come on, we're not that bad. What does that have to do with it? It doesn't. Okay. Moving the fuck on then. A lot of song lyrics are, in a single word, safe. Especially with a lot of people like Ed Sheeran, Ariana Grande, friggin' Justin Bieber. I don't know pop musicians! It's always this very self-insert kind of situation for teenagers to vaguely assert themselves into, so they have to be as general as possible in their way of saying, the way you flip your hair unless you don't have hair, in which the case the shine on your bald head. This is a terrible, terrible analogy. I think of song lyrics the same way I think of poetry, and honestly, if you read it out loud, it just sounds like a 5-year-old's poetry that they wrote on the back napkin of that one fucking terrible burger place. That was the most American thing I have ever said. And the sappiness of it would be funny if it weren't just so inoffensive. Nobody's ever doing anything that's out there, even in the slightest remark. I mean, you'd never hear Mariah fucking Carey belting the words, "The sun is a deadly laser!" at the top of her lungs at a Christmas concert, would you? Hey, you stole that from TikTok! I would like to murder you now. Unlike this fucking fetus, most normal people on the internet will remember that from Bill Wurtz's History of the Entire World. I guess. But the thing is, contrary to popular belief, Bill Wurtz isn't actually that much of a history guy. In fact, only 2 videos on his channel are actually long-form educational history type content, even though those are the 2 that he's most known for. But as a person who basically watches every video that he puts out and has been following him for many, many years now, I can say for sure that he's maybe about 15% historian and 405% musician. Math is fun! What? No, it's not. What even is that? 420%? I'm not even gonna dignify you with an explanation if you don't understand that joke. No, screw it! I don't understand this joke and I feel like I'm being left out, okay? Because all the boys in my class are always talking about how 420 and 69 are so funny. What about those numbers is so funny? Well, you see, 420, drugs, 69, nice. Ow, I fucking haired myself in the eye. I mean, again, I have to ask. I get your point. Do you really though, or are you just saying that to get me to shut up while you talk about the history of the world guy or whatever? Gablin, what did I just say? 69 and 420? Bill Wurtz is a fucking musician, not a historian, you heathen! To be fair, even though his main type of videos don't have the same contents as the history videos, they retain a certain kind of, let's just describe it as an aura. You can see people making references to these videos in pretty much every comment section ever. And when they do, it is always, without exception, a jingle.
How did this happen?
And it's getting closer together.
It's a storm.
New shit just got made.
Something's alive in the ocean. Now you can eat sunlight. Hey, can we go on land? No. Why? The sun is a deadly laser. Oh, okay.
I find it really weird that one of his songs hasn't gone as viral as the History of the World video because, like, it's just one long jingle. Like, it's the same damn thing. Remember what I said earlier about reading lyrics? Well, you know where this is going. I'm a princess, and I think about the diamonds in the sky too often. Do you love me, or have things gone astray? Buckets. Catch the dreams as they fall from my ceiling, and earthquakes come and go all afternoon. Woke up in the morning, traveling straight into the sun. Told my friends and family I was gone. Looked back in the mirror, thought about who I had become, and I don't think that anything's gone wrong. Jumped out of my suitcase and went traveling down the road. Went back to the place where I was born. Thinking about my future, thinking about how far we have come. Oh, I don't think I'm going to be going home. Yeah. The more time I spend thinking about it, the more meaning that there is, but at the same time, the more time that I spend thinking about it, the less meaning that there is. I'm sure we've all done this, but especially people in my generation tend to tune out YouTube videos, kind of have them playing on in the background while we're doing our homework or some shit like that. Like, seriously, I can rewatch an episode of Trash Taste Podcast like 4 times and still have no clue what anybody is doing. It's a 2-hour podcast. How do you expect my friggin' media overloaded brain to actually be able to pay attention to something for 2 hours? Generation Z is bad at a lot of things, but if there's one thing we're good at, it's canceling people on Twitter. But if there's another thing we're good at, it's multitasking. But even so, my Zoomer brain is completely incapable of multitasking with a Bill Wurtz video going on in the background. I have to pay attention. Even if we put the lyrics and even the music aside, you have to stare at the psychedelic visuals on the screen. It is a visual acid trip and I love it. You have to devote all of your mental energy into it and use your entire brain. So honestly, in today's media landscape, you have to overuse your brain. Like when you're always trying to analyze those deep and meaningful Billie Eilish lyrics. Gablin, I'm trying very, very hard not to punch you right now. Oh please, you would never, because deep down, you understand that those lyrics are just, oh my god, so genius. Or at least I understand them because of my self-diagnosed depression, you see. I know exactly the kind of internal turmoil that she's always— Everybody ignore the corpse just laying on the floor. We can do this. Bill actually has a website, the for once non-creatively named billwurtz.com. It's this HTML site that really looks like it was made on a fine 2007 afternoon after removing that embarrassing My Chemical Romance profile picture on his MySpace page. Did they have profile pictures in MySpace? Or was it just like pixel art and stuff? Am I showing my age for genuinely not knowing this? Fuck! Hey Siri, text Helena, did they have profile pictures in MySpace? Huh, so apparently they did. It's not that old, I guess. Oh fuck, now I've just made a 35-year-old want to talk about MySpace. What have I done? Top 8? What the fuck is this? Background music to non-consensually assault people's ears with no option to turn it off? Her words, not mine. Well, I just had a short text conversation about MySpace profile pictures with a boomer. I feel young again. He has a tab called Reality, which is basically just a video diary of him explaining his thought process when making his videos. The latest entry is from like 2016, so it's not updated very often. 2016 was 4 years ago.
Foraging a way forward with the script. We have the pre-intro, which is the hi, you're on a rock, we can't get anywhere, there's too much water, how did this happen jingle. Then we have the very nothing, nowhere, no one, black screen, white screen part. So I'm watching multiple documentaries about stuff to try to get a handle. I'm ready to go forward with the script. We're gonna start with quirks. I need to put Earth in a very sensible context. The timetable for this is not exactly what I expected. It honestly makes the Earth and stuff seem a lot more important. The age of the Earth being a third of the age of the universe, that's like a lot more significant than I thought it was. I would have expected it to be like a nothing time period. I mean, the age of humans compared to Earth, now that's some nothing shit.
I think the way he talks about his thought process is absolutely fascinating, and I cannot be the only person that thinks this. He's barely fleshing any of the ideas out, just talking about whatever the hell comes to his mind, never truly developing the ideas properly. And you really need to have watched every single video involved to understand what is happening. The way he writes his scripts is the definition of raw. He just writes whatever's on his mind, doesn't double check the logic, and probably doesn't proofread a whole lot either. Just getting as many raw ideas onto paper as possible and eventually turning it into a song somehow. Through that weirdness, he makes it just naturally entertaining, and he pushes it as close to educational or insightful or enlightening as possible without making it seem like it was processed in any way, shape, or form, or making it fall into the boundaries of conventional wisdom. And it's that last part that I think is most interesting about him. There was this kid who used to be in my class. For anonymity's sake, I'm just gonna be referring to him as Pete. I was on a class field trip once, and Pete was talking to one of our teachers, and she asked him, "Pete, what do you want to be when you grow up?" Now, Pete was an interesting kid. He didn't understand what the word thorough meant in 6th grade and had to ask me one time. You can tell his parents did most of his science projects and book presentations and all of that for him. And so when our teacher asked him that question, he responded, "I want to be a billionaire." And so I started asking him questions. Okay, how would you become a billionaire? What are the logistics of that idea? But eventually, I think my teacher saw that I was pushing him a little bit too far with it, because it's obviously not a thing that he's ever thought through, and she didn't want me to crush his dreams, so she just kind of put her hand on my shoulder and said, "Shh, let him dream." That wanting to be a billionaire thing isn't really dissimilar from the way Bill Wurtz thinks. It's a very raw and unprocessed, childlike imagination. The only difference is that Bill Wurtz is much more complex in his thinking. There's this old video of some science guy talking about the negative effects of school on adolescents. I spent 30 minutes trying to find this clip, and I swear to God I can't find it. I don't think most of it was any enlightening, except for this one phrase that he said. It went something along the lines of, if you enter a kindergarten or first grade classroom, then you have these kids asking all these questions. What are clouds made of? Why are plants green? Why is the sky blue? These are important questions that we need to be asking. They're not dissimilar from the kind of questions that a scientist or a philosopher would ask, but if you walk into an 11th or 12th grade classroom, then you see none of that. Something went wrong between kindergarten and 12th grade. Bill Wurtz is what happens when the imagination of that kindergartner meets the intellectual complexity of, a fucking philosopher, kind of. None of it is meant to have any sort of meaning whatsoever, so in turn, it's all somehow really meaningful. I do this thing where whenever I come across a certain concept which may seem mundane, almost boring on the outside, I start crafting these insanely imaginative stories around them. For example, there's a kid in my class who just spends a lot of time playing the guitar. It's this kid really likes music, that's neat. Any sane human being would just see that and move on and think, oh, that's cool. Whereas I did the same thing of coming up with an insanely traumatizing tale of generational abuse that comes from the concept of not being able to chase your dreams. Fun! But of course, there's steps between, oh, that kid really likes music, and a horrifying tale of generational trauma and impossible parental expectations. My brain is weird, but still, there's a motherfucking line! I reckon Bill Wurtz does the exact same thing. The only difference is that he just doesn't take the steps to fully flesh it out. He doesn't try to make all the bullet points make sense with each other, even though that's what we're taught that we're supposed to do. It's what drains all of that pent-up kindergarten energy, making an idea conform to the boundaries of logic instead of just saying whatever we want to say. The genius behind Bill Wurtz is that it simultaneously means something, but that something isn't really logical. La-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-day-o, I think it's called, is about the feeling of losing track of time, but it's also about a stick figure getting kicked out of a mall for being short. And the day goes on is a message in optimism, which also involves a suitcase. And Virginia for some reason. If we try to dig into the meaning behind them, we come up with exactly nothing, because it's not supposed to make sense. That's his way of being a billionaire. He's talking about concepts which are very real and very relatable, but at the same time he's making no sense, because what part of salmon stacking on top of one another relating to 1900 and bicycles and times changing whatever? What?
2 plus 2 has been 4 for so many darn years, oh Lord. I wanna write a song. Oh baby, is that just so wrong?
Yeah, no, never mind. Just forget I said anything. None of it makes sense anyway.
Bye.